Assalamu alaikum and welcome everybody. My name is Arshia Ali Khan and I am the CEO of the Muslim Legal Fund of America. It is my honor to be here with you all today, and it is my honor to introduce my team that has been preparing for this moment for the past 22 years. As you may or may not know, MLFA was created in 2001 after the devastation of 9/11. And we have prepared and we have been preparing our expertise in constitutional and national security law. And it is with great honor that we are here to serve you today. As we speak, we know that children, our brothers, our sisters in Palestine are losing their lives and living in terror. As a mother and as a wife, as a leader, as a woman, and as the CEO of MLFA, my heart and my soul are at unrest. But we are prepared like never before to have your back. And we are honored to present the team that is here to serve you, that MLFA is here to serve you. I wanted to remind you all today is not an opportunity for direct or specific case legal advice. We are giving you general legal advice as an education and as a tool to prepare you as you speak into the world. We are here, though, to call and answer any of your specific questions. So please keep your questions general if you can. And if you have specific questions, know that we are here to take those calls. You can email us or you can call us and we will give you that direct specific advice. But for this purpose, for this general town hall, we are here to answer your broader questions. So I'd like to introduce my team to you that will be joining on this call and being prepared for our panel. And I'm doing that for the sake of time, as this town hall has been produced so that you may ask your questions. Today on my team, you will have Charlie Swift, who is the Criminal Defense Department head. He holds a law degree from Seattle University School of Law and a Master's of Law from Temple University. You have Christina Jump, who is our Civil Litigation Department head. She holds a law degree from the University of Houston Law Center. You will have Catherine Brady, our Immigration Department head, who holds a law degree from Texas Wesley University School of Law, now Texas A&M School of Law. We have Sana Salim, the Nonprofit Department head, who holds a law degree from Sturm College of Law. You have Safia Khalid, Criminal Defense Department staff attorney, who has a law degree from the University of Sussex in UK and a master's in law from Cardozo Law School. You'll have Chelsea Glover, civil litigation senior staff attorney, who holds a law degree and a master's in law from Duke University School of Law. And we have Basil Hassan, civil litigation department staff attorney, who holds a law degree from Rice University School of Law. And Franchelle Daniels, immigration department senior attorney, who holds a law degree from Charlotte School of Law. And finally, you have my operations manager, Jawad Khan, and he will be our monitor and a navigator today. So thank you all once again, and I'm going to ask my team to join the screen, and we can be prepared to give some headlines. We have Charlie Swift joining us first, and Safia Khalid to give you an opening from our Criminal Defense Department.
Hi, my name's Charlie Swift, and I'm the Criminal Defense Department head. There are two principles, first off, with what's happening, the tragedy in Gaza. People feel the need to help, and I absolutely understand that. And the way we always help in a disaster is to send relief, money for relief, aid, etc. That's tricky in Gaza because of the requirement for licensing, because Hamas controls Gaza politically. And I'm here to answer your questions about how best to do that. I'll start right now by saying we recommend by giving to a 501c3 charity that's licensed in the United States and was doing work in Gaza beforehand. What we don't recommend is sending individual donations to people overseas or through overseas organizations, as those may be ultimately investigated as material support of terrorism. Safia, can you talk to them a little about the speech online?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the atrocities we're seeing in Gaza, people are really upset. People are angry, and for the most part, that's good because people are speaking out about this in a way we haven't seen before. But we have some concerns in the criminal department and what we're seeing in online speech. On the criminal side, where speech can be criminalized, is where true threats are made. That's language that can be read as being threatening a specific person or a specific group of people. That's not protected. It can be a criminal violation. Also, speech that can be interpreted as being an incitement to imminent lawless action. So anything that can be read as a call to violence, imminent violence, that's not protected and can be a criminal violation. Another type of speech that's not protected that is relevant specifically to Gaza, as Charlie mentioned, Gaza is Hamas-controlled territory and Hamas is a designated terrorist organization. Speech that is made in coordination with, or that can be viewed as being in coordination with and for the benefit of Hamas, can be a criminal violation of the material support of terrorism statutes. That's something that we have concerns about with speech that we're seeing online. Why is that? I'll give you an example of in some of our cases where speech that itself was not a criminal violation did serve as pretext for an FBI investigation. And in that FBI investigation, we saw undercover agents, informants, follow the individual into Telegram chats, Signal chat rooms, where they then were the source of inflammatory speech that could have been the basis of a criminal violation length of the investigation. And in the end, the individual ended up being charged for speech that he made online. And that speech only consisted of sharing a link to the Hamas website that collected funds. So these are concerns that we have here. But don't operate in fear, right? If you are approached by the FBI or you have questions or concerns about speech that you're seeing online or have made online, or approached by the FBI for an interview, get an attorney, contact us, get help. Charlie, do you want to talk to them about why they should seek legal counsel if the FBI approaches them?
Thanks, Sophia. Sure. Absolutely. The first reaction of anybody when they're approached by the FBI is to be afraid, and they're afraid if they don't talk that they'll appear guilty. That's not the reason. You should never part on it. You can't talk your way out of a problem. You can only talk your way into a problem. One of the principal problems that we see online is people don't know necessarily what the FBI is investigating. They guess or they don't understand things. The other part is the FBI routinely asks about all of their friends, everybody they've ever talked to. What do you know about these people? And people don't want to get other people in trouble, so they deny it. And that leads to false official statement charges to the government. If you make a false official statement to the government during one of these interviews, you can be charged for it. The way to protect that is get an attorney. We're here to help. Lots of organizations are here to help. But the first thing you have to say is, hey, I'd like to have counsel, the assistance of counsel.
Just to set the context again, I just wanted to welcome everyone to this town hall. This is Arshia Ali Khan, the CEO of MLFA, and you just heard from Charlie Swift and Sophia Khalid. We're going to bring on our attorneys, each department, and they're going to give you a small opening, and then we are going to open up the floor to answer any and all the questions that you have. Again, I'm going to reiterate that this is not in lieu of direct legal advice. This is legal education to ensure that you are prepared and ready to take on any information or any action that is coming to you. So with that, I'm going to turn it to the civil department and ask Christy and Basil and Chelsea to join the call.
Thanks very much, Arshia. I appreciate that. One of my favorite quotes is, "I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." And that addresses a lot of what we've been fielding lately in civil litigation regarding free speech, how that comes up, where it's protected, and where, unfortunately, it may not be. Some of the areas where we've seen this come up in our area within the civil framework include student protests. And while students have the right under the First Amendment to free speech, what are some of the repercussions that we've been seeing? Which ones are protected? Which ones are not? What actions might even be protected in response? And which ones just simply go too far? We've seen the consequences include students potentially losing jobs, and in some situations having an offer rescinded, versus having their private information put out without their consent, and in some situations, even suffering threats. So I do want to introduce our staff attorneys, two of our staff attorneys within the civil department who work here every day right alongside me on these issues and who can address and highlight just very briefly before we get to your questions some of the other issues that we cover within the civil litigation department. So Chelsea, I'm going to hand it to you.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Glover, and I'm the Senior Staff Attorney in the Civil Litigation Department. And as Christina Jump just explained, we do cover a lot of free speech issues, including, prior to this incident, we were covering a lot of issues related to the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. So we have been aware of the hostility towards pro-Palestinian advocacy for a long time, and this is just heightened that. Luckily, the First Amendment protects a lot of speech. Our criminal defense department went over what it doesn't protect, and what it does protect is quite expansive, though it's very limited to things that cause direct harm. But being critical of something that is very popular, especially during times of war, that has been explicitly protected by the courts. So there is, and we will go over that in detail in response to any questions. And on top of that, we also generally in what terms of we cover it, it's not just free speech. We also do a lot of religious freedom issues. We do a lot of discrimination that is still very prevalent, and we anticipate that will increase in the near future.
Basil, you're up.
Hi, my name is Basil Hassan, and I am a junior staff attorney in the Civil Litigation Department. One of the other things we also handle are things like when people find themselves on the government watch list, things like the no-fly list or the selectee list, kind of making sure that you're entitled to your due process of rights. So the government can't just put you out there without charging you of something. And we kind of help you go through some of those processes if you are discriminated against those bases. They do have a redress process in place, but it's not always the most transparent. And so oftentimes we have to go to litigation in order for them to submit the information they have, or to essentially say you're not on the list, or that they take you off. And I just want to kind of echo this as not a member of the attorney teams, but as a member of the community who's kind of seen a lot of the things that's happened over the past few years. Take a look around at all the attorneys that are around us. Many of them are non-Muslim, and they're here fighting the fight. So I just want to echo that.
Thanks to both of you. And we'll turn it back over to Arshia, and you'll get to meet our immigration department here momentarily.
Thank you, Christy. And once again, I'd like to welcome everyone who's joining. Inshallah, I'd like to introduce now our immigration department, Catherine Brady and Franchelle Daniels, who will give an opening statement and just share with you the areas of law that we cover. And then we are going to open it up to you to have your questions answered. So please use your comments feature, your chat feature, to send your questions to us. And please also note that this is general legal advice that we are presenting today. We are not addressing any specific client-specific or case-specific issues, because we want to offer that to you when it's protected and in private. We also have our nonprofit department. So you're going to hear two more openings, and then we will get into the question-answer period of this town hall. So with that, I'd like to bring on our immigration department, Catherine and Frankie.
Hello, good afternoon. I am Catherine Brady, and as you know, I'm joined by my senior staff attorney here, and she'll have a chance to speak in a minute. But in the immigration department, we are seeing these current events in Gaza really putting into the forefront issues that MLFA's immigration attorneys have dealt with and advocated for in regards to due process and fairness for a very long time. Because a lot of the things that you heard about from the criminal side and the civil side about free speech, the immigration agencies will use to indicate that those might be terrorism-related grounds of inadmissibility, a very specific term that we use in immigration law. And these are accusations made by the U.S. government immigration agencies against Muslims and those from Muslim-majority countries. And these have existed over the past 5 presidential administrations. As we heard in the beginning, MLFA has existed over those same 5 administrations, and that is what we have been doing to vigorously represent our clients across the gamut of our practice areas. And so we have seen just generally over the last 20 plus years, and I've been in the immigration space for that long, restrictions on travel, even before the Muslim ban. There was another program back in the mid 2000s that restricted travel and required people to check in, limiting immigration benefits, such as taking away the right for people from Syria to even request refugee status during the Trump administration, guilt by association for making charitable donations, which the criminal department talked a little bit about, and I think our nonprofit practice will also be able to touch on, humanitarian efforts. And again, as the civil department said, the negative interpretation of free speech in the political realm. Just because you're free to say it does not mean that there are not going to be criminal or immigration consequences that our government takes. And as I said, we've been ongoing with some of our cases for decades. At least a few of our cases, I can say, started their immigration history even before MLFA existed. And we are trying to help them navigate that on issues, organizational associations, religious speech, and their humanitarian efforts. These are very important issues that we have. I'm going to turn it over now a little bit to Franchelle to talk about some of the other issues that we in our department, how we deal with that.
Hi, as Kate said, I'm Franchelle Daniel, and I'm the senior staff attorney in the immigration department. And we represent cases at administrative agencies like USCIS, EOIR, or immigration court, as well as in federal court. And we just want the government to act without bias and really seek to really understand our clients' issues. We understand that sometimes when clients are speaking, English isn't their first language, and so the communication may be imprecise, but the government needs to understand that truthful answers should not be manipulated just so that the government can justify discrimination. And we want the Muslim population, our Muslim community in America, to understand how immigration laws may treat this otherwise protected speech as a reason to deny immigration benefits. And so we want to work with our clients to address those issues when faced with them by the government. And so when we're dealing with immigration laws, they are more restrictive than criminal laws. So you heard our criminal department talk about how they'll use what's stated in conjunction with other things. Well, in the immigration realm, it doesn't have to be in regard to a designated terrorist organization. The speech can be in regards to what we call Tier 3 undesignated terrorist organizations as well. And so we want to fight against that government narrative and help to alleviate some of those roadblocks that the government will put up to justify denying applications that should be approved. And so we hope to be able to answer some of your questions about general immigration today. And if you have specific questions, feel free to reach out to us via the website, via email, phones. We're here and we're ready to help. I'll pass it back to Arshia.
Thank you, Catherine and Franchelle. And finally, I'd like to bring on Sana Salim, who is the new department head of our nonprofit division. She will come on and give you her take, and then we will open up the floor with all of our attorneys and answer your questions. Sana?
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sana Salim, and I am MLFA's nonprofit department head. I know I'm the only thing standing between you all and your questions right now, so I'll try to keep it brief. What we do in the nonprofit department is conduct nonprofit legal screenings. Really, it's to encourage nonprofits to promote transparency, meet government requirements, and foster community confidence. We are dedicated to leadership excellence and just best practices amongst Muslim nonprofits, mainly C3s and C4s. As Arshia mentioned, many of you know that MLFA started after 9/11 to fight institutionalized Islamophobia. And part of that was the federal government scrutinizing Muslim nonprofits at a much higher rate than the general C3 population. One result of, the Holy Land Foundation case was just a need and a desire for nonprofits to be proactive on the front end with their internal practices. And that's kind of where we come in. Legal advice and healthy governance practices can be critical to the success of any nonprofit, not just Muslim nonprofits. An MLFA legal screening evaluates your organization on governance, risk, and compliance. I know that sounds like a bunch of legal jargon, but what it means is that we review an organization's internal documents, like I mentioned, tax filings, labor and employment practices, financial practices. We have our own rubric. We give the organization a score, and then we give a written report along with that score. And then finally, we do a targeted legal training for board members, for leadership with the organization, and it's all kept confidential. We know that good governance can lead to better fundraising, transparency, and sustainability of organizations. And some of these areas that really need improvement are employment practices, governance, financial controls, lobbying, and particularly relevant today, international transactions and donations. We are here to help identify risks and find ways to address them. If your 501c3 donates money abroad, please contact us for a legal screening to ensure that your funds are being sent and distributed in accordance with legal guidelines. If I may take just a couple more minutes and highlight some just pieces of advice. Again, like Arshia said, this is not, comprehensive legal advice, but a couple of things that I've found that I advise my clients on when sending money abroad are, number one, to make sure it's in concurrence with your stated exempt purpose, which are on your original origination documents. So make sure any money that goes abroad is in line with that original purpose. Number two, and these are in no particular order, is to show control, whether that's a paper trail, receipts, anything that shows that that money, again, is being donated and given and in line with your exempt purpose. That includes background checks and anything like that, anything previous research you've done with the organizations or partners that you're giving money to kind of show that control, that the 501c3 in the US has control of where that money is going. Third is OFAC. Go to the OFAC website, the Office of Foreign Assets Control, and see if if the country that you're donating to is on a list. Every country has, there are different rules and regulations that apply to different parts of the world. So go to the OFAC website. And then lastly, if there is a foreign bank account, if the US 501c3 has access to a foreign bank account, there are additional forms other than just the general 990 that you need to file. FBAR is the short name for it. It's Form 90-22-1. So just know that there are different rules and regulations for different parts of the world. Contact us with any questions, and we're happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sana. At this point, Jawad, I'd like you to bring all of our attorneys on camera, and then we can open it up to questions from our audience. So as they're coming on, and again, in the virtue of time, I'm going to go ahead and ask one question that we see. How to address the threat of unemployment or punishment for speaking up, either online, like tweets, retweets related to Gaza, or via email to Congress revealing traceable information. I'm not sure what that part means, but I'm sure you guys do. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
So as far as the unemployment part, I think that we handle that a fair amount within the Civil Litigation Department. Also, I'll let you in on a secret that my background, as well as Chelsea Glover's background before coming here, was primarily in labor and employment law litigation. So for that reason, Chelsea, I'm going to turn it to you to go ahead and address how we handle that one.
Okay. Yes. So we have to make a distinction between what the First Amendment protects against versus what it doesn't. So the First Amendment protects against government interference with speech. It doesn't protect private backlash to speech. So when it comes to the employment context, unfortunately, private employers do have a lot of leeway on who they can hire and fire. Title VII, which most people know is the Civil Rights Act, the Employment Discrimination Act, protects against race, color, gender, sex, national origin, and religious discrimination. But it doesn't protect against political activism or political views at all. It just doesn't. There are certain states that have limited protections for employees who participate in lawful political activities. These include New York, DC, California, Colorado, and I think North Dakota. But those are narrow. Those are, for example, the issue of the woman who lost her job offer. She would not have been covered by New York's law because she was not an employee. It only applies to people who are already employed. And even then, it's still narrow in scope. So there's a distinction between, supporting Palestine and advocating for Palestine, and then, as I'm sure the criminal department will go into, advocating for Hamas, which is designated as a terrorist group. And that is the needle you have to thread. Unfortunately, there are people, I'm alarmed watching the news. I went to Harvard undergrad. I am alarmed at what they're doing there. People putting out public information of students to harass them. That is harassment. And frankly, I believe they should have some recourse for invasion of privacy. But really, I think the best way, legally, there's not much to prevent them from being terminated or not employed because of the things they say. An employee, because it works in all ways. Some people don't like, for example, Trump and January 6th, and they can choose not to hire based on that as well. However, I did notice when it comes to the question about emails to Congress, I want to be clear. I don't believe you should limit your free speech rights at this time for fear of public backlash without some inclination by your employer that that's going to happen. If you're a citizen and your congressperson represents you, you have every right to demand that they respond to your concerns. And I don't think the solution to this is not to silence yourself. It's to get your voice out and to change people's minds. Not every employer is doing this. A lot of people are criticizing employers for doing this, including alumni and professors at Harvard, just to elaborate on that. So in that instance, I definitely understand the concern, and we are following it very closely. But I just want to reiterate that you should not do not assume that your rights don't exist before someone has tried to take them away from you. I think that's how I would respond. Christy, anything else?
I think we're good to move on from. I think we have a lot of other questions, so we can go into a ton of detail on all of them, unfortunately. But I want to make sure that we get to a few more of them. So I'll pass back to our moderators to see which one we get to next.
Thank you, Christy. And again, for everybody, just know that every single question that you are writing, we are recording, and we will answer those questions in different formats if we don't get to them today. So please keep your questions coming. We want to keep our answers brief, but we want to give you the information as well. So this is a limited time, but this MLFA is here to serve you. So just know that. Keep your questions coming, and we'll get through as many as we can, but we will respond to each and every one in different formats moving forward. So the second question here is, how should you respond if you're stopped while traveling and asked about your political views? Do you have to answer all questions at airports, secondary screenings, or can you plead the fifth? Or just stay silent and tell officers that I don't trust them?
So I'll take this one on. I would say first and foremost, your initial reaction should always be that you're happy to schedule a time to speak with them, but you would like to have the presence of your attorney. And people often think that, kind of echoing what Charlie said earlier, that, oh, I'm a good guy and surely they'll be ready to see right through that I'm not, a threat. These agents are not your friend. That's the hard truth. And oftentimes, we've even seen some of their kind of internal policy documents. They have trouble identifying from time to time. And oftentimes the agent that's at the gate that will come meet you if you find yourself on one of these lists where you're not able to get on, they have no information. They just know that you're flagged. And so they're just following guidelines. They're going to have no idea what's happening. They're there just to ask you questions and to essentially do whatever the small microcosm of their job is that day at the airport. But to echo kind of what everyone else said, you're happy to schedule a time to speak with them, but you always want an attorney present. And then that's when we recommend reaching out to us.
Thank you, Basil.
And I could,
Yeah, I was going to say, Jawad, I'm going to ask you to keep all the attorneys. I think let's just keep everyone here, and I think it'll be easier that way to navigate, just to save us some time. Christine, please go forward.
yeah, and everything that Basil said, I agree with. I wanted to just add on to that a little bit that, you know, obviously security during travel is something that all of us care about, and all of us do want legitimate security questions to take place. And we have some more in-depth videos that are on the landing page that I believe is being put in the chat for you to take a look at. We would just, as a general rule, advise that you answer the basic ones, answer the normal ones, because that, you know, the TSA and any agents at the airport, like Basil said, they don't know if you're on a list. They don't know why. They can't take you off it. They can't solve your problem. So your battle's not that day. Your battle can be later and through other methods that we can discuss in more detail later. But they can't fix it for you there. But they sure can make it worse. And one of the ways is if you refuse to answer what are the general standard travel questions, like where are you going, who are you traveling with, how long will you be gone, the stuff that realistically you know they already know anyway. So answer that stuff, be polite, be cooperative. But if it gets weird, if it gets extreme, if they start asking you about your religion, where you pray, that sort of thing, like Basil said, that's when you can say, I will be glad to answer your question, but with an attorney present. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Arshia.
I'm going to give it to Catherine to see if she wanted to add anything to that.
I think the unfortunate thing is that when you're a non-citizen and you're stopped coming back into the country, usually you have a lot fewer rights. They may not even let you talk to your attorney. But what Basil said was great too, is be polite, be cooperative. They probably can take your electronic devices and check them. But you'll eventually have a decision one way or another. No promises that it will be admitted into the United States unless you are a lawful permanent resident. They cannot actually deny lawful permanent residents access to the United States. So be polite. Less is more, I guess.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, team. So the third question for you guys, do FBI agents have to identify themselves, such as when they engage with an individual regarding their social media posts, online, or activities?
I'll take that one. Okay, so generally the answer is yes. I'm going to talk about the one exception because the FBI comes in two forms. FBI agents who are not undercover and FBI agents who are undercover. FBI agents who are not undercover by matter of policy, if they seek to detain or question, must identify themselves. They'll do that by showing their badge quickly and or giving you a card. That's the moment when you can say, thank you, and I'd like to have an attorney present. FBI agents that approach undercover, you won't know they're FBI agents, and they want to talk to you about your social media posts, and they're going to want to push you further. So the question is, when somebody you don't know approaches you, other parties, I'd be concerned. So, but as a general rule, if the FBI is coming to you in an official capacity, they must identify themselves.
Thank you, Charlie. Question number 4. If you're in a large group WhatsApp chat where everyone is sharing opinions and different things are going on, what responsibility does that put on you for comments posted by others, videos that are posted by others?
All right, I'll answer that. That's a good question. That is some of the concerns we're seeing a lot of with what's happening in WhatsApp groups, Telegram, the shadow banning on Instagram, we're seeing has pushed a lot of activists and a lot of the political and religious speech to WhatsApp, to Telegram, to Signal, places where people are less inhibited, where they're surrounded with other people that share their politics. And, you know, things are heated right now. People are upset. People are angry. But what we have seen in some of our cases, like an example that I gave earlier and what Charlie was mentioning, is there is a lot of FBI surveillance in these other platforms. And they show up as informants and undercovers who are not just surveilling the speech, they are participating in the speech. They may make the most religiously inflammatory comments. They may allude to, you know, calling for, I'll say one example we saw in a chat group this week was someone calling on the brothers and sisters in Iraq and Syria to show solidarity with Palestine, to unite with Palestine. From what we've seen in our cases, the FBI would read that as coded language inciting ISIS, or, you know, calling on ISIS. And so things like that should concern you. They should worry you. We saw another post where someone was talking about a protest and they were angry and they said, if someone has a gun, let them bring it. That's potentially illegal speech. That's speech that I don't know anyone that would say that. So that raises questions and concerns. What do you do when you're faced with these people in your WhatsApp groups that are making statements that you have questions about or that concern you? You can do a few things. Report them to the admin of the group. Tell them, you know, that this raises some possible criminalized speech concerns that implicate everybody in the group. Ask for, you know, that person to reach out for education about this stuff. Reach out to us. If you have questions or concerns about your speech, about speech happening in a group, you can direct people to us. You can reach out to us. We are happy to advise anybody on this, the speech happening in these groups, but raise it, call people out on it, because you don't know what it is, where it's going. If they don't want to reach out for education, that person isn't your friend and isn't somebody you should trust. So that's our advice there. Anything you would add, Charlie?
No, just a part. You're generally not liable for the speech of others, but when you're in a group, the government calls it a conspiracy. Sitting passively in it is concerning, and not taking action, unfortunately, doesn't lead to good places. Sophia's advice is dead on. It's what you should do. When you see something that you don't think is right, say something. We're not saying say something to the FBI. We're saying, because people are emotional, but say something to the group administrator or say something to us, and we'll try and help.
Thank you, guys. I'm just moving straight along with the questions, so we will give other comments at the end. For those of you who are joining, thank you for being part of this town hall. You are in the room with MLFA's attorneys, 4 different departments. We're here to address any and all questions that you may have with what is happening in Gaza and how you can show up and be safe all at the same time. So the next question we have is, what are immigration consequences for non-citizens who practice free speech, international students, work visa holders, GC applicants and holders, and for those who are politically active?
I think there's a part 2 of that question. If you go down a little bit too, there was.
Oh, start with part 1 and I'll look for
Okay.
part 2.
All right. So there are a lot of things I think that when we as immigration attorneys look at speech and how the immigration agencies look at it, what always pops into my mind is the security related grounds of inadmissibility, which is, you know, a real term of art that nobody uses inadmissibility in the way that we do, meaning we can either keep you out or try and kick you out. So as Chelsea kind of said, it's a needle to thread, because you're here and you're able to say things that are free speech, but our immigration agencies only have to have a reason to believe that you are supporting terrorism. And as Frankie mentioned in our introduction, that doesn't even have to be a designated terrorist organization. So I think that you want to think about what you're saying and be very precise. All of us are extremely upset about things that are going on. And maybe we as attorneys choose our words very carefully and would say, I am against human rights violations, or in support of people having humanitarian aid. I can't tell you exactly what every immigration officer or Custom and Border Protection agent or visa officer at the embassy will ever think. But I can tell you that they are very adept at giving the least favorable interpretations to your words. So just be careful, especially what you put in writing and anything that might be recorded.
Thank you, Catherine. And I found part 2, so
Yep.
I'm going to say it out loud. Can supporting Palestine or having some political view different than the official US view be a ground for inadmissibility for US naturalization?
No. Having an unpopular political opinion or a political opinion different from the US official policy is not a grounds, and it's not, and that's the other thing about naturalization. It's not so much about inadmissibility. It's another nebulous term, good moral character. So it does not make you lacking good moral character. And honestly, I was reading on the Department of State's website, and if you look at our Human Rights Watch report for Israel, I don't even think we would have the same view if we stated what we said in writing on our own Department of State. I think there's actually a part 3 to this question, and if Frankie wants to take some more.
Oh, well, before we move to part 3, I just wanted to add one little piece to the other part as far as the initial question of, if you're trying to be politically active and that whole piece. I think it's important to keep in mind that, especially when you're thinking of good moral character, if you are out there, you want to be as peaceful as possible with it, because any small infraction could come back on you with your application. So if you're arrested for peacefully protesting, although you did nothing wrong, while that is pending, if it's during your good moral character, those are going to be roadblocks to your immigration application. And so it's not wrong for you to protest. You just want to make sure that you're doing it in a peaceful manner and that you're staying within the law, because any little infraction, they're going to use it to say, aha, you have this infraction during your good moral character period, and now you're not eligible. And they have the discretion on those pieces. So that's where you just want to make sure you're careful, sort of like Kate said, with especially anything that you're putting in writing. So I just thought that was a little piece to make sure that we
actually now I see it's not part 3. It's actually parts 1 and 2 combined. So we will send it back to Arshia.
I got you. Don't worry. Question number 6. Is it enough for a 501c3 to give funds that we collect to an NGO to distribute funds in Gaza? Guidelines about giving to nonprofits for Gaza. I think the question wasn't 100% clear, but I think what I'm understanding, is it enough to give to a 501c3, a collective group? How do we distribute funds to Gaza? What are some guidelines in supporting nonprofits that are giving to Gaza right now?
I'm going to start and then I'll let Sana finish. How's that? Is that okay with you, Sana? Because it's a two-part. Because one's a question about a 501c3, what it needs to do. I'm going to talk about an individual donor. The first part is we're recommending, based on past case law, that you give to 501c3s US-based. Past case law has said that donors to a 501c3 can rely on their representations as that they are operating lawfully, that if they've operated, that they are lawfully able to operate in Gaza, you can rely on that representation and should in this process. Where you get in trouble is when you move outside of the sanctioned 501c3, where where you're suddenly on a GoFundMe campaign. That has no guarantees, none whatsoever. Now we have the difficulty, the criminal side, of proving you innocent. And in the immigration side, it becomes even more difficult because you don't get much of an opportunity to prove you're innocent in the part if that happens to apply. So we recommend giving to a 501c3. Now for a 501c3 to get that money to Gaza is going to be difficult. And Sana can talk a little more about that, which is why we're recommending the ones who already have licenses, because she mentioned recently the licensing program for OFAC. And if you don't have a license right now, it's going to be tough to get one.
Yeah, Charlie. So like I mentioned earlier, just what you said, that a U.S. charity can do, and I want everyone to remember this, it's really important. A U.S. charity can do anything in a foreign country that it can do here, provided that that activity is consistent with the charity's exempt purposes. And that is, IRS language. That's what we, kind of a gold letter standard for how we advise our 501c3s. If you can do it here, you can do it abroad, as long as it is consistent with your exempt purposes, which, you can find in your origination documents those articles of incorporation that, you know, whoever in the organization filed at the very beginning. Just make sure you're consistent with that. I hope I'm not, I know I am going to be redundant, but those kind of points that I hit on earlier, control is a key component that the IRS looks at. So once you've, you know, as the 501, and I'm speaking because my clients are the actual 501c3 organizations. So the C3 has to show control. Now, the IRS doesn't give us clear definition of what control means, but there are some factors. Lawyers love factors. So, you know, background checks on the people on the ground in Gaza that you're giving to, that the 501c3 here has done those background checks for people over there. Sorry, I wanted to make myself clear. Keeping that paper trail that I mentioned, keeping whether, you know, receipts or logs of where the money is going. So that is one factor to show your level of control. So I hope, I don't know, I hope that helps answer the question. I will get back to you about guidelines. I don't know if that's something that maybe we can kind of all collectively put together and add to our resource page that I think should be linked in comments. We have like a Gaza resource page. So that might be something that is a great idea to add to that resource page.
Yeah, just looking at, thank you, Sana, thank you, Charlie. Just to reiterate, for the sake of time, this town hall will end at 5, but every and any question that you guys are asking, we will address them one by one on a frequently asked. And we are also building content and building our website with resources to support you. So please do keep your questions coming. You're doing great, and we want to be able to answer as many as we can. But anything we've missed, we've got you, and we will be back in a different form to ensure that your questions are answered and that you feel protected and educated on how to navigate these extremely challenging waters. The next question I have here is, if the FBI wants to interview you about someone else, not yourself, is it okay to talk to them without an attorney?
This is Charlie. Sure. Of course it is. It's always okay. Is it advisable? No. If the FBI wants to interview you about someone else, then your difficulty is, A, the FBI may have an agenda, what they think you should say. You say something different, they're going to, well, you know, the false official statement tool is a very strong tool used on what they believe are recalcitrant witnesses. If they're conducting a criminal investigation or an intelligence investigation, excuse me, your part on it is that, hey, look, I would like to have counsel present. You always have the right not to talk, and you know, whether you want to or not, being informed and being represented is smart. Being interviewed in any of these contexts, I've been in way too many of these after the fact, fixing them, and it's going to be difficult in the next 2 years to fix them, is that the FBI will have a narrative and an agenda. And if your answers don't fit that agenda, they're going to put pressure on you. They will presume that you are lying. The difficulty of going into an FBI interview is you don't know what their agenda is. And, you know, when you go out, and you have to understand something. The FBI has the right to lie to you. You don't have the right to lie to them. Now, what they can't do, because they're Justice Department officials, is lie to your attorney. They have to tell your attorney the purpose of the interview. They have to, you know, they can't make misrepresentations to your attorney to obtain the interview. So having the benefit of counsel is critical in these interviews.
Thank you, Charlie. I'm going to move a little bit quickly because time is running and I want to get as many answered. But again, keep your questions coming. Thank you, Charlie, for that answer. The next question is, can you let us know what rights we have during a public protest and what is prohibited during protests?
Yeah, I can address that on behalf of Civil. And then I want to throw it to Chelsea on that as well. I'll just give you the very broad overview, and Chelsea can give a couple more details before we move on. But like Arshia said, we can answer all of these questions in more detail through our Q&A. So keep asking the follow-ups. We just won't get to them before 5, but we will get to them. As far as your rights for protesting, you just stay safe. Don't take the bait. Don't become violent. Even if it's theoretically defending yourself, don't do that. That's going to take away your free speech, and it's going to make it really hard for you to defend yourself. And no hate speech. Nothing directed directly toward a specific other individual, which is the problem I have with what's happening at Harvard and with the doxing truck. And no other language that identifies a particular person as a target or in a hate speech kind of way. And there's a lot more we could get into on that. But those are the main things that I would point out. And with that, I'm going to pass to Chelsea.
Yes, and as she mentioned, so when it comes to protests, it's the First Amendment protects your right to peaceful protest. So peaceful means peaceful. Don't take the bait. Don't engage in violence. Don't come expecting violence. Just follow the rules. With protests, the government can limit where you can protest, what time you can protest, how you can protest. Follow the rules, and you will avoid all government trouble. Just keep it peaceful. And many, public peaceful protest is popular in this country. There's so many different organizations have how to protect yourself and keep your identity safe. But when it comes to just following the law, keep it peaceful. Don't say anything that could be considered even remotely a call to violence, and follow the rules. Protest when and where and how you're directed to protest.
Oops, sorry, I'm talking into mute. So thank you, team, Chelsea and Christy. The next question that we have is, what free speech rights and protections do domestic groups have as to their opinions?
I'll answer it briefly and then defer to Sana on the rest there. I would say that, for the groups that we've represented on the civil side, a group has the same free speech rights as an individual for the most part in the civil context and as far as litigation. But just understand that there may be more scrutiny depending on the stated purpose of the group and depending on the context in which stating the opinion occurs. And if it's at, say, a large gathering like a convention, like lots of groups have conventions, it's absolutely fine to state views there. Just beware of anything that might be seen to be riling up a crowd. And if it's going to go to something where if it goes wrong, if you've got one bad actor in the audience, it might be something that could potentially reflect negatively on the group. So that's the part that I'd be concerned about from the civil litigation side, but generally it's the same protections as to any individual. And with that, I defer to Sana.
Thank you. So I don't know if I'm going to take this on a little bit of a tangent from what the original question is, but I can speak to how this relates a little bit to lobbying and advocacy. So when groups, C3s and C4s, C4s are our category of nonprofits that are more advocacy and lobbying groups. There is an overlap between the two groups. So again, this is very brief, but C3s are allowed to do some lobbying. It's below 10 to 20%, where there's it's not substantial, and I put that in quotes because that's the legal definition. As long as it's not a substantial part of the work that the 501c3 does, they are allowed to engage in some lobbying. C4s are allowed to lobby. So it's probably too much for me to go into kind of the bulk of it right here, but just know that if your organization is a C3 or C4, if you're a C4, you probably already know this, but for C3s, you are allowed to engage in some lobbying as long as it's not a substantial part of the work that you're doing. And that's kind of defined as like less than 20% and or you spend less than a certain amount of money per year with those lobbying efforts. So I hope that kind of helps answer from the organization standpoint.
Thank you, Sana. I know that we're almost out of time, so I'm going to take 2 more questions. But again, I'm going to reiterate to everybody, your questions are important. Keep them coming. Please visit our website at mlfa.org. We have produced resources specifically to Gaza, including videos and sheets and templates. So make sure that you are visiting our website, getting the information that you need. Also know that if you have a very specific or personal question related to you or your organization or your loved one, call us, email us, contact us directly. We are here to serve you. Today was just an opportunity to get your burning questions answered, and we wanted to be here to serve you. So every question is important. As you can see, our team is here and prepared to answer them for you. So the last two questions before we close out this town hall. In Arkansas, there was a law that was put into place last year. That said, roughly, any language against Israel is illegal. I am paraphrasing. Are you aware of this or any other similar issue or law?
I'll start with this one. I imagine this is definitely paraphrasing, because any law that says speech against a country is illegal is unconstitutional, just flat out. But we are aware of Arkansas's anti-BDS statute, which is very similar to Texas's and many states across the country, that say that you cannot get a state contract or state funding unless you say, I do not support BDS, or I support Israel, or something like that. And so that's being litigated. The specific case in Arkansas dealt with a newspaper or magazine getting government contracts from Arkansas. And so right now, the only circuit decision, the court decision that's outstanding, held that Arkansas law is constitutional as applied to this contractor. They're saying you do have a right to free speech, but that does not imply that the government has to fund said speech. They don't have to give you money or for any reason, and they can choose to deny you money if they don't agree with your speech. So that is probably what you're thinking of. We oppose that. We are trying to stop a similar law and stop the proliferation of these laws across the country. But we are very aware of this, and we believe they are unconstitutional, but that is still being litigated in the courts.
Thank you, Chelsea. And our final question for tonight. How can anyone approach you for legal help? MLFA got this a couple of times. So I guess that leads us to our closing, but I will close with that. Are there any other questions, Jawad, that we can address? If not, then I will.
I will say that I think Basil has a little bit more that he could add regarding what Chelsea was talking about as to the laws and the question there about the state laws.
All right, go ahead, Basil.
So it's technically a little bit of a different battle because it's at the state level, so it's going to get fought in state court, even though it is a federal question. As an organization, usually when we dive into these laws, we do view them as First Amendment violations, free speech violations, in that we keep using the acronym BDS. It's the Boycott, Divest, and Sanction movement, which is it's a boycott, which is probably the most American fundamental right there is. And so every time we kind of unpack some of these laws a little bit closer, and when we have opportunities to challenge them, we do take those on.
Thank you, Basil. That leaves us with a few minutes to close out. First and foremost, I'd like to thank all of you, our dear community members, for joining us today and for being brave enough to ask these difficult questions. I wanted to thank our team, and I wanted to just ensure that you are all confident and aware that we are here, we have your back, and MLFA was created for this moment. We have expert in constitutional national security law. You can contact us via email. You can contact us over the phone. We are here to respond and to provide information for you. We would much rather educate and protect you before we have to defend you. So if you are not sure, I urge you to take a pause and give us a call. We will respond. We will get back to you. We are also filling our website with resources, and we're posting on social media. So follow us in any and all spaces, and we will be there. We care sincerely, and this is what we do. So please know that we are here to serve you, and you are not alone. If you are in the Dallas or the Bay Area or in New York, please know that we are coming to you. We have leadership trainings going on and community trainings going on right now. Please visit our website for more details. But our team is coming to you live. We are also hosting MLFA in your community. So if you feel there's something going on in your community and we can address them, we are coming to you. We will prepare for you. We are here to serve you. So please stay in tune on our website, our social media, and reach out to us. Don't tackle these issues alone. You are not alone. Our team is here. They are experts in this law very specifically. We, again, deal with criminal, civil, immigration, and nonprofit law as it intersects with constitutional and national security issues. We thank you all for being here today. Know that our heart is breaking, but we were prepared for this. And as Basil said earlier today, during this devastating time, one thing we can tell you for sure is that we see hope. The laws have changed because of the work we are doing. We set precedent, we create good law, and we are here to serve you, and we haven't stopped. I know that people thought a few years ago with COVID coming that MLFA had stopped working. We have not stopped. We have not missed a beat, and we are not going to let you down. So reach out to us, mlfa.org, follow us. We are here to serve you. Any closing statements from any of my staff, please just jump in. We just have a minute or so to go.
I just wanted to say, we did this we see everything happening in Palestine, and we're glad that our communities everywhere are speaking out. And this event was to educate and empower you, because we know people are scared. We know they're angry. And we know that they don't know what to do in a lot of these situations. That's why we're here. We're here to educate and empower you so that all this important work can be done. And
I think I want to give everyone a closing. So thank you, Sophia, for saying that. Please, everyone give a statement so that everybody leaves with you in their heart and knows how to connect.
I wanted to say that we deal with a lot of immigration cases where people thought they could go alone, and they thought immigration attorneys were too expensive. But the suffering that happens when you try to dig yourself out of the hole that the government is digging for you through the FBI, through other security-based interviews, is something you need an attorney. And if it's something we can help you with, we would love to. Otherwise, please don't go it alone.
And I don't want to keep everybody late, but I will say on behalf of the Civil Department, we agree. We're here for you as well. And we are able to help in a range of issues, a range of areas and topics that come up. Many that we don't take because our mission is targeted. And so we do try to stay within our targeted mission statement. But there are a lot of different aspects that covers that may surprise some people. So if you have questions, please do go to the intake. And we really appreciate everybody coming. And then I just wanted to end by saying that in the civil area, what we see a lot as far as, that FBI question that covers every area I think that we have, it has some sort of implication on that, is that, if you talk to an FBI agent, there's a large chance they're going to be phishing, and there's a large chance that, it may not have been something specific that they really needed to talk to you about. They're just looking to see if they can get information. We have a lot of clients who refused to be informants, and then they started having trouble traveling, and we address that as well. And so with that, I am going to pass it back to our fearless leader and see where she wants to take it.
I want to give everyone a minute. I know we're past time, but I want everyone to speak into it. This is a hard one, and we're all here. So go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I'm going to echo Christy on the part. You're not, and Kate and Sophia and all of this, you're not alone. Pick up a phone, go to the website. I would much rather deal with the question today than in 6 months when we're having calls that say they're taking this action against me. Informed. I've been doing this for now 20 years. I don't represent criminals. I represent people that the United States has tried to make into criminals. I don't think I'm talking to a single person who wants to commit a crime. Instead, what I want to make sure is that you have the knowledge to make your voice heard without fear.
Thank you, Charlie. Basil, Sana, and then we'll go to Chelsea and Frank.
I can piggyback on Charlie and say, the reason I'm here is to help nonprofits on the front end. Like I mentioned, I would rather you come to us now. It doesn't matter which stage of the life cycle you're in of your nonprofit, whether you're just getting started or you've been around for 20, 30 years. It's always beneficial for your organization, for the leaders in your organization, for the members of your organization to know that things are being done as efficiently and as effectively as possible in accordance with all rules and regulations. So we're here to help, and inshallah we can do our best to help you.
I just kind of want to echo what everyone says. I won't be too long-winded. As just kind of a local kid, I saw the direct effects that the Holy Land Foundation case had on us. And what I'll echo is that while things are looking very bleak right now and everybody's called to action, our community has an opportunity to see the silver lining and the optimism in everything. We have the resources and the teeth to voice our opinions, not as just Muslims, but as Muslim Americans, and not just with this Palestinian issue, but with other issues forthcoming. We're here to protect, as a legal organization, those very rights. So as a community, I just want to point those things out. And I know it's very bleak, but there is optimism on the rise.
Chelsea.
Just want to say thank you for attending, everyone. And to be brief, you have rights, and you shouldn't be afraid of exercising those rights, because there's a lot of noise in the world. There's a lot of people on your side, a lot. I've been keeping up on everything every day. You're not alone, and you're not, it seems like you're unpopular. Trust me, there are many people who agree with you. And so, yes, exercise your rights. Do it.
Thank you, Chelsea. My friend Chell.
I would say definitely, I'll echo Chelsea for a second, definitely exercise your rights. And as an immigrant, keep in mind, though, that you're still you're in a different realm. And so just be mindful, be conscientious about what you're saying, what you're posting. Don't let your voice be silenced, but be thoughtful. And if you're in the midst of the immigration process, reach out. That's what we're here for. Most of our cases, we're untangling things. We are rarely getting in on the front end as far as immigration. We have to untangle and fix things, basically. And so that's what we do. That's what we know. And we're here to help you. So reach out to us.
Thank you. Catherine, did you go? Okay. Well, with that, I will bring us to a close. Basel, I'm going to ask you to recite Surah Asr, and then I will give our closing arguments.
I don't know if I trust my
Sana
pronunciation right now, but if anybody else wants to take that torch, you're more than welcome.
Sana,
I can jump on if needed.
Jump on.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Indeed, by the passage of time, man is in a state of loss except for those who believe and do good and righteous deeds and call others to the truth and call others with perseverance and patience. Allahumma amin.
Thank you. Sorry, Basel, to put you on the spot. I also feel overwhelmed in these moments because the responsibility is so great. So I apologize to put you on the spot, and thank you, Jawad, for jumping in. To the community, once again, know that we are here to protect you, to educate you, and to defend you if we need to. But our goal is to educate you first, protect you, and then defend you if we must. We are a free, pro bono, low bono nonprofit organization dedicated to serving you, and we are created to advance equality and justice for American Muslims and Muslim organizations who are caught in the guise of national security and constitutional law. We thank you again for joining us. Please keep your questions coming, and more importantly, don't go at it alone. We are here to serve and protect. We will be in Dallas this weekend for a leaders training. We will be in New York in a few weeks, and we are also coming to California on the 28th, Santa Clara. So please look out for our events, look at our website, and make sure that you know that you are protected, and that is what we are here to do. So thank you all. Thank you to my team. As you can see, our team is made up of experts. A lot of people said, why not all Muslims? Because not all Muslims are experts. We look for excellence, and we have created excellence, and we have a mix, and that is the true representation of our deen and our country. And what we do in this country has an effect in the world. So let's take on this responsibility as it has been given to us and be responsible as we go through these challenges and through whatever there is to come. Inshallah, with that, I will bring us to a close. And I thank you all inside of MLFA and out for being here with us today. And I ask for your prayers and protection always. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Assalamu alaikum.